Will China cut the undersea internet cables to Taiwan? Is this the signal that war is in our future? We're talking about this story and so much more here on the Gateway Pundits Week in Review. My name is Elijah Schaffer, and this is the Week in Review, where we cover the top 5 stories of the last 24 hours. Well, it looks like it begins. China cuts the undersea internet cables to Taiwan. Check this out, John Mills reports. In September, a group of journalists, including me, were hosted by Taiwanese national security experts to discuss the developing crisis of Chinese aggression towards Taiwan. The portion of the week-long visit at the Institute for National Defense and Security Research, the Taiwanese defense and security think tank akin to MITRE, RAND, or the Aerospace Corporation, contained an urgent and compelling message. We will be quarantined within 6 months, and the first step of the operation will be China cutting our undersea cables to interrupt our communications with the world, was what senior research fellows at the Institute for National Defense and Security Research in Taiwan, Drs. Zhu Yun-su, Shan-san Keng, and Charles C.J. Wang shared. Their observations were prescient because that has now happened. Now, China goes after one of the main undersea cables connecting Taiwan with the world. You can see here directly. Now, that being said, in a replay of the Baltic Sea undersea infrastructure attacks by Chinese ships in October of 23 and November of 24, a Chinese associated ship has now destroyed a major undersea cable off Taiwan. On Friday, January 3rd at about 12:40 hour local time, Changhua Telecom noticed an outage from its Trans-Pacific Express cable, which it owns and operates with AT&T, China Telecom, China Unicom, Changhua Telecom, KT, NTT, and Verizon. The location was just outside the 12-mile limit of territorial waters of Taiwan, north of the major Taiwan port of Keelung at the northern end of the island nation of Taiwan. The water depth in the area is likely less than 500 feet. Now, Changhua Telecom notified Taiwan's Coast Guard Administration, which was the patrol boat to intercept the Hong Kong-owned, Cameroon-registered freighter Shangxing 39. Now, it turns out here, the CGA attempted to board the ship, but rough weather prevented boarding operations. The vessel's automatic identification system is apparently turned off now, and since the event, the Shangxing 39 may be heading for Busan, South Korea. South Korea itself is in a state of civil unrest with the struggle between the Chinese-leaning Democrat Party and the conservative populist People Power Party. Now, in an interview with Voice of America, directly Ray Powell, director of Stanford University's Sea Light Project, said that the Chinese vessel had been operating between Keelung and Busan, South Korea, under 2 different names, 2 different flags, and 6 different identification numbers over the last 6 months. Now, Ray added that having at least 6 different registration numbers indicates that the ship is devoted to being off-grid or hard to track. It's hidden behind a private company based out of Hong Kong with an owner in China and flags of African countries which keep the Chinese government from the vessel's activities. Now, the next thing happens that from September visit to Taiwan, the 3 members from the Institute for National Defense and Security Research shared concerns that Taiwan had 6-month window of a possible quarantine operation to cut off Taiwan from the outside world. They predicted that China would attempt to replay a Cuban Missile Crisis tactic by creating a naval barrier which could also stop and inspect ships. Now, whether or not this is a genuine attack from China, I mean, there's no question about it. But, was this just an accident by a Chinese-owned ship? Like, were they really in a position to where they actually cared? I mean, we got to talk about the reality. This is a possibility, but we don't know. Now, that being said, in further news, it also turns out that, guess what? The FBI confirms that the Cybertruck Bomber, Matthew Livelsberger, sent shocking emails claiming China's gravitic drones threaten U.S. East Coast, warning of an impending attack. Now, many of you guys know it's been a crazy year for MyPillow. It's already been an incessantly insane year for the whole world, but it's because of you that MyPillow is making it through. Mike Lindell, an ally of Donald Trump and his employees, want to thank you for your continued support by extending their wholesale prices on classic MyPillows. Get standard classic MyPillows only $14.98. I can't believe I'm even saying that, only $14.98, but I get it even better. Upgrade to a queen-size MyPillow for just $18.98, a king-size only $1 more, and get the body pillows for $29.98, and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.98. So go to MyPillow.com and use promo code Elijah, E-L-I-J-A-H, or call 1-800-210-8491 and use promo code Elijah to take advantage of the wholesale prices. Including the standard MyPillow was originally $49.98. It's only $14.98 now, and the queens are only $18.98. And kings are only $1 more. Not only that, orders ship free over $75. So pick up the most comfortable pillow in America from a company that loves Donald Trump and freedom using promo code Elijah, E-L-I-J-A-H, at MyPillow.com. Links on the screen and in the description. Now, that being said, it is pretty remarkable because we are in a dawn. We are in an age where people are doubting the authenticity of truth. And that being said, the Cybertruck Bomber warned people about an attack from China. It looks like the FBI has verified the authenticity of an email sent by Matthew Livelsberger, the individual behind the Tesla Cybertruck explosion outside the Trump International Hotel. In the email, Livelsberger alleged that China has deployed advanced gravitic drones capable of launching attacks along the U.S. East Coast. We have confirmed that the document that Livelsberger sent to the podcast, we know that he was the one that sent that document, said FBI Special Agent Spencer Evans, adding that they have not yet addressed into what's legitimate and what's not. Now, it turns that there's more about this. We can watch the clip and talk about whether or not this actually happened. Here's him addressing the attack and the confirmation about the email.
Spencer Evans, Special Agent in charge of the FBI's Las Vegas division. In terms of a question about the validity of what Livelsberger put out to the public, either in the two-page manifesto or additional documentation we're discovering, we're not speaking to the content. I can say, as Sheriff Corrin described and others, it runs the gamut. I mean, he's talking about feeling that he was, surveilled, guilt. You can tell there's, some anguish there, some frustration with the government. I mean, there's a whole host of things. So we haven't gotten into, what's legitimate, what's not. The only thing that, out of an abundance of caution, in as much as there's Department of Defense equities that speak to sources and methods, something else that would endanger folks overseas, that's not being released. But beyond that, we haven't vetted any of his writings to determine, what's legitimate and what was in his own head.
Whatever happened in 2019?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they know that that's what it was. Now, what's kind of crazy about that attack is, look, we still don't even know why it happened. Well, he did release something. It's not normal. Speaking of not normal, this is not normal. Leaked Veterans Affairs Insider reveals HHS memo detailing presidential inauguration medical personnel support request that just seems out of control. Now, it turns out that there was a meeting between James O'Keefe and some individuals who released something saying that, there might be something suspicious going on, particularly when it comes to the inauguration. I'm not going to play the whole video for you. You can find the rest of it on thegatewaypundit.com, but listen to what he had to say.
From the Veterans Administration surfaced containing an unusual request: support for the upcoming presidential inauguration. A high-level source inside the Department of Veterans Affairs has disclosed a memo from the Executive Director, Office of the Emergency Management within Veterans Affairs. The source inside the VA said the source deployment request did not occur for the last two inaugurations. We spoke to the source inside the VA to ask if this is something that's typical. So can you just talk a minute about this being typical or not typical within the VA? Them doing these sorts of things for the past few inaugurations?
What concerned me was that this has never been requested before, especially not from HHS. What we have, what I saw to me was a little bit unnerving. I've been in the VA for several inaugurations, and this was the first time they have ever asked for DEMS personnel.
First time they've ever asked for personnel.
For an inauguration, yes.
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. That's why I decided to send that memo to you, because I believe that there's something unnerving about it. I'm not 100% sure, but my gut says this is not normal, and it's not.
The memo details a formal request from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response, or ASPR. It calls upon the Veterans Administration to provide critical medical support for the event. Specifically, they sought the deployment of paramedics, registered nurses with expertise in emergency and medical surgical care, and licensed medical practitioners, including MDs, DOs, NPs, PAs, specializing in emergency medicine. The memo is signed by Derek Gustad, who is the Executive Director for the VHA Office of Emergency Management. We ask, is this request part of a standard protocol for inaugurations, or is there a specific reason for the heightened medical readiness? We sent an email to the email address provided on the memo, and we have not yet heard back. We also gave a call to the Executive Director himself, Gustad.
This is Derek.
Hi, Derek Gustad.
Yes.
Hi there. You wrote a memo dated December 10th, distributed internally, and it was said urgent, and you were talking about preparations for the inauguration. I'd like to ask you a few questions about the memo.
How can I help?
A source within the VA has told us that it's quite unusual. Is it typical that you guys out of the Office of Emergency Management deploy these resources for a presidential inauguration?
I can't speak to every, but two out of at least the last three, I want to say 3 out of the last 4.
Well, the source inside the VA is saying that this has not been done for previous inaugurations.
I can't help what the source within the VA has chimed or has claimed, but that is not the case. And indeed, we have supported President.
So who's telling the truth here and who's not? I mean, that's a question we'll leave up for you to decide. You can read the rest of the story and tell us what you think. Now, that being said, as many of you know, there are evacuations underway as a massive 3,000-acre wildfire rages out of control in Pacific Palisades amid gusty winds. People panic and abandon their cars. Christina Lila reports that evacuations were underway as a massive wildfire raged out of control and engulfed homes in the Pacific Palisades. Check out more of the story there. It's untold millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of damage, maybe even billions of dollars. We don't know how many lives have been lost, but please pray for Los Angeles. Their government is completely out of control, and the people that run that state are absolutely insane. Also, just a hopeful mention at the end, a GALLUP poll was released showing that Joe Biden was ranked as the second worst president in American history. Ben Q reported on this, and, unfortunately, we don't do a lot of sound effects on this show, but I'm sure you all probably knew that. Anyway, my name is Elijah Schaffer. Thank you so much again for watching another episode of the Gateway Pundits Week in Review. As always, have a great rest of the week, and may God bless the United States of America. I'm signing out.